Robert Page Heifer Station. We're about on the banks of the Clarence River, about 50 kilometres northwest of Grafton. We're a breeder property. We specialise in producing weaners and vealers. The Page family have been here at Heifer Station since 1923. It's had various changes in structure but still stayed within the family in all that time. And yeah, today my father and my mother and my wife and I, we run Heifer Station as it is today. We run about 1,000 breeder cows, so we run British cows, cross them with Brahman bulls to produce F1s, then use those F1 mothers as terminal mothers, so they get crossed with Angus and Charolais, and then they form our vealer and weaner production. As a beef producer, we take a lot of pride in the husbandry of our cattle and the relationship we have with them and their welfare. That gives us a lot of satisfaction, and it's pretty much what we think about every day. And then also the responsibility of looking after the land and the environment that we have here, and we take a lot of pride in leaving it in a better state than what we've had it before it was handed to us. And our country lends itself to doing all our work on horseback as opposed to motorbikes, but being able to get close to your cattle and work quietly up close with your cattle, we find yeah, you just get better results. And I mean, you've got to end up working with them on foot in the yard too, but getting them into the yards and cutting them out on the horseback, it's a quieter, it's easier on us, it's easier on the cattle, we find. So we've been using AgSolution products since roughly about 2004. So I started with mineral blocks and then progressed primarily to loose lick now. And then with the range of products, we use a lot of phosphorus lick in our green season, and then we got the option of using protein licks through our dry season. Before using higher phosphorus licks, we were having trouble with some paddocks. They were picking up bones, and sometimes some paddocks you'd have to be pulling the odd bone out of something's mouth, and then you'd notice in the spring when the season would break, the cattle would actually slip, and I think that was a phosphorus and calcium deficiency because they depleted their own stores. So by having that access to that year round, it's sort of reduced that problem. And also in the winter, we used to have a lot of trouble cattle chasing green feed and going into bogs and getting stuck, whereas with the use of protein now, we find we don't have that issue, or very rarely have that issue now. Even though the bogs are not fenced off, we're still, yeah, they're getting their proteins, so they don't need to go and chase that. Been using Natramin fertilisers since roughly 2008. We use those on our holding paddocks and some of our special paddocks just to try and increase our carry capacity, and so we can increase our grazing pressure on those paddocks as well. Since we've been using the Natramin, the fertilisers, we've noticed the bare earth in between the grass is reduced, and as a consequence our weed has reduced as well. And we noticed the cattle just do a lot better, and you can probably run more cattle on the same area yet still have more grass. And it's a long-term thing, it seems to build each year as you go, and that's been our experience with using the fertiliser. We've been using phosphorus both in our licks and our fertiliser as well, this area is naturally low in phosphorus, so it makes sense to use it to put it back into the ground. But then with our cattle, I've come to understand that phosphorus, when things are green, is our limiting factor for growth. So that's been our big reason. So we use it with our cows, but also with our weaners and our steers as well. The economics of using the lick, it seems to add up quite well for us. I've been measuring our use of it, measuring that against the kilograms that we produce each year. And we've been using it 10 cents a kilogram of production. These harder times have been increasing it a bit more, and the cattle have been holding well through the tough times, so that extra spending, an extra couple of cents on top of that 10 cents, yeah, it seems to add up very well for us. Using the lick out in the paddocks, it's been a bit of a learning curve for us. So we were initially just putting it out once a month, and then sometimes they'd eat it all very quickly and sometimes they wouldn't. But I've sort of found by putting it out and sort of satisfying the craving, then the appetite seems to normalise and taper back down to just a slow, consistent rate then. Whereas if I miss it and go back later, they tend to gorge it a bit more. So I've been making more of an effort to keep the lick out more consistently, and I think overall the use is probably the same, or could even be a fraction less in some cases, as opposed to the letting them run out and then letting them gorge it again. So our supplementing, we used to just do it through our tough times, but the more I've come to understand the importance of the minerals and a lot of things I probably still don't understand yet, and we're trying to have it out all year round, all conditions, and just try and tailor the lick to what the conditions are and just keep it there all the time for the cattle. I first stumbled across Natramin products looking for a horse block that I could use in conjunction with cattle, and then as I analysed lots of different blocks, yeah, the Megamin block came up as a good all-round block, and as I used it, the more pleasing I was with the results. So, and then as I used more and more of it, and then I came to know Roger and I got to understand the products and how to use them more, and then he's been of assistance, yeah, with the fertilising too, which was an area I certainly needed the advice on there, so it's been very helpful. The soil tests have helped us analyse that we are using the right product that we thought we should be using, and seeing the results. With our phosphorus deficiency, yeah, Roger's helped us tailor a higher phosphorus mix to try and address that issue. It's always a chronic issue here, but yeah, we're missing phosphorus, so we needed to add more. 13-14 was a very tough time because it was a tough season during there, and then plus there was a massive oversupply of cattle coming onto the market for slaughter, and that was all on the back of the live ban in Indonesia, which then flowed back onto even affected us here in this area, even though we're nowhere near there. So that was a time you couldn't get your cattle, you needed to get rid of your cattle, needed to go, but you couldn't do it. And then also the tough season, but we just kept putting out more supplement too, and that was the first time I'd aggressively used the supplements, even though financially we're under more pressure, but my feeling was it was going to be beneficial to keep the cattle in good health, and it did. It proved. We came through there and we had full calving rates in the following years when the good prices were there, so certainly paid for itself many times over. So I've ended up having to design my own troughs for use for the dry lick. So there are basically a 44-gallon drum cut in half, but down low with a roof over it, and that allows my younger cattle to come up and to access it when they see their mothers up accessing it too. So well, number one, it's a cheaper thing to make than an off-the-shelf trough, but it's more practical for our situation, and our young cattle are already trained to eat the lick and getting the benefit from the lick well before they're weaned. Yeah, putting the lick, the cattle certainly associate you with a good thing, so you're, whenever you're walking around the troughs and the cattle are coming to you, or even around here there's some cattle just coming up and looking at us just now, so it's a nice feeling to walk into a paddock and have the cattle point their heads to you, not away from you. Yeah. I'm very confident about the future of agriculture in general, but my area of beef, I think quality protein in Australia with our lot of natural grass-fed product here, I think we've got a good opportunity, and we are capitalising on that, and then there's such good natural supplement products that we can use too to enhance that, and it fits in looking after our cattle and our environment, and I think, yeah, everything's a winner, I think, yeah.